Hey there, this is Moses again, and I will be your presenter. This video will be a deep dive into what is the true defensive capability of carrying a concealed, less lethal launcher. In this scene, we see a woman texting while a potential assailant is approaching, seemingly unnoticed. Even if she is aware, getting on the phone at this stage is not going to help. No one, including the police, will get there in time to save her. She has a less lethal launcher in her coat pocket. What should she do? First, we must understand that every person wearing a hoodie or looking suspicious is not an actual assailant. If you draw on someone who isn't, all kind of bad scenarios can happen. There are the criminal and civil legal issues, of course, but there are also other bad things to consider. What if the thought-to-be assailant is just an ordinary citizen with a concealed carry firearm who will think you are the assailant? What if the individual is, in fact, a street tough, but wasn't thinking about attacking you and is also carrying a firearm? They could even be an undercover vice cop or just a regular off-duty police person. This would end badly for you, be it in court or in the morgue. There is no short answer that can be given without looking at the whole picture. I am going to turn you over to Carly, who will discuss some key concealed carry launcher considerations. I will be back.
Hi, this is Carly. To aid in Moses's presentation, we need to look at some key features about concealed carry capable launchers. The first is, what do you have to do to get it ready to fire? The three current methods are trigger pull once or twice, bang the quick pierce knob, or twist the CO2 cartridge until it is punctured. Only the trigger pull method is likely to be successfully completed before the assailant would be on top of the woman in Moses's scenario. That reality leaves only the Tipman TIPX and the Berna LE with trigger pull activation capability. For those without the trigger pull capability, they must activate their launchers before hitting the streets or other sketchy locations. If their launchers have regulators and are tuned for high power, that could be a problem with regular and prolonged activation. I will get into what launchers I carry in a future video, but, for now, let me mention one more extremely important thing before I turn it back to Moses. Yes, I'm talking about the quick draw. We must understand that less lethal launchers require the same type of deployment as a firearm requires, and more. If you can't get your launcher out and fire in 2 seconds or less, it probably will be of little use on the streets. Moses will cover in great depth what a real street attack is like. I will be back with another of my own videos soon. Bye, and back to Moses.
Thanks, Carly. Before we get back to the woman's defense dilemma, it is important that you understand when you should try to defend oneself, and when complying and giving in to an assailant is probably your best option. If the assailant in this picture had a knife instead of a gun, compliance would still be the best option. Those who understand the danger of a knife wielder from close in and have the experience to think they could make a stand, so be it. I am going to show what a real knife attack is like. It's not like what they teach in martial arts schools. Sadly, the unarmed man died from his wounds. You really got to think hard before you engage an experienced knife fighter. I will next be spending some time trying to get you to understand how real street attacks or attacks in other sketchy places happen. Even the example here implies someone stalking this woman for some time before closing in. This is what Hollywood has brainwashed us to believing. Criminals in reality move quickly, preferably from places that catch you by surprise, threaten you up close and personal, with the impatience that tells you to comply or die. I am going to show 4 animated videos illustrating points I want to make. The first video shows what we think will happen in a confrontation as we max out the jowls to our launchers, dent or put holes in metal baking pans, bust open watermelons and coconuts, etc. It isn't that power isn't important, it is just the illusion of our confrontational image that makes us think that someone can pull a low-power launcher out and fire pepper balls and kinetics at an assailant coming to attack us, and they will feel the pain or be overcome by the chemical irritant and run away. The retort is usually to propose a what if the attacker is on some drug or adrenaline and the pain won't stop them. This is a consideration, but does not show the fallacy of the whole confrontational fantasy scenario. Let's look at a simplistic version of the fantasy confrontational scenario. The villain has a firearm, but that could be a knife or club, which are usually the things that the fantasy scenario assumes the assailant has. This is the fantasy situation that many less lethal launcher carriers are basing their defense. No criminal is going to warn you ahead of time by action, stare, the drawing of a weapon, etc., at a distance that allows you to charge your launcher, aim, and fire multiple projectiles at the assailant. The one exception might be a mental case homeless person, but there you would be better served to use pepper spray or simply cross the street. Another component of the confrontational fantasy is the 20-foot distance to the assailant fallacy. You see people practicing at targets 20 feet away, like an assailant would be stationary or even charging in a straight line. While we are talking about the adversary being 20 feet away, let's do a simulation of how long it would take the assailant to close on you from 20 feet away. Can you draw your launcher, charge it if not charged, aim, and hit the on-charging assailant in the face, and he has a knife? The video simulation was 2 seconds. Would pepper balls have a sufficient effect in those 2 seconds? Would pain stop the charge? Let's next look at a typical street robbery scenario and see what can be done with a less lethal response. Keep in mind that a firearm that is not employed in time is also of no use. Once again, the assailant could have had a knife instead of a gun. I realize facing a robber with a firearm is sketchy at best, so let's assume he has a knife. Unless you are some type of super street fighter, wrestling with the assailant over the control of the knife might be too risky for you to seriously consider. So what does this mean? Are less lethals useless in most robbery scenarios? Not necessarily. Let's do the simulation with a slight twist. We are not Walt Disney or Pixar. We are limited to what we can do with our simulation, but I hope you get the point. You would want a potential assailant to know you have eyes on them. Not as a stare or challenge, but a casual glance while you stop to check if you have something in your pocket. You back away calmly, alert to a sudden rush or move. Once you feel the potential assailant has decided to wait for an easier victim, you go your merry way. If the assailant does make a move when you face them, then it's a quick draw contest. If he has a gun, you should just comply. If he has a knife and you can back up while deploying your launcher, then that is an option. I believe you need at least 2 less lethals on you when out and about. I would already have my pepper spray out as part of my keys. The assailant's rush would meet with pepper spray as I retreated to get some distance or get a car between us. I would be drawing my launcher with my other hand while retreating or dodging and fire on the assailant as soon as I was able. This scene is very similar to our simulation. The woman should have her keys and pepper spray in one hand. She could use the phone as a prop to turn and glance at the oncoming stranger. Varying off some from her path, with an eye on the incoming stranger, she could slip the phone into the pocket that has the launcher and grab the launcher. She would now have pepper spray out in one hand and be able to draw and fire her launcher in less than 2 seconds, if already charged. If the stranger passes her and keeps moving, she resumes her walk, keeping hand on launcher and pepper spray ready. The woman can still be in imminent danger. The stranger may have a partner or partners lurking somewhere. The stranger might duck into some hiding place waiting for her approach. Without knowing the specific environment she is in, we can't speculate what her next move might be. I can say, however, that I hope her launcher has the power to help her fight her way to safety. Speaking of launchers for concealed carry that were shown in Carly's video, let's assess their suitability. Put it simply, if you were the woman in our example, which, if any of these launchers would you want to be carrying? Carly could be the woman in the example, so it will be interesting to see what she carries in an upcoming video. Let's get back to our street attack simulations. This is a classic robbery scenario. The vehicle may be a motorbike instead of a car, but the technique is the same. If the assailant catches you by complete surprise and has a firearm drawn upon jumping out of the car, then you need to resign yourself that you will be robbed and hope for the best. This is true even if you are not caught by surprise. The variables are: does the assailant have a gun or knife? Is the assailant's firearm drawn or in the process of being drawn? If you have a fast draw and are not caught by surprise, you might want to take on the knife wielder. Trying to beat the firearm-armed assailant to the draw requires a lot of confidence in your draw speed and accuracy, as well as in the power of your launcher to do sufficient damage so that you may retreat to safety. It's a personal decision that you can only make at the time of the occurrence. The action would be like what is shown in the following modified simulation. Like I said, it's a crapshoot. Only you know at the time what type of risk you are willing to take. Our next simulation is another very common street robbery technique. All I can say is you have to be watchful. I hate using fashionable statements like you must have situational awareness or keep your head on a swivel, but the reality is you have to constantly be alert, no matter what words are used, to describe the process. Here is a simulation of how you could meet this type of robbery threat. Never give your back to a suspected attacker. If it is a false alarm, no harm, no foul. If it isn't, then you catch the assailant by surprise as they turn to rush you. Pepper spray should be out and you should be ready to draw and fire your launcher if the expected assailant makes a move. If they stop or back off, you continue to back up until you are sure they are not going to rush you. At such time, you will turn and walk forward again to continue your journey. Carly will be doing an in-depth look at each of the launchers shown here as to their suitability for concealed carry. She will also share what she carries when away from home. Mike will be doing an in-depth look at the launchers shown here, their suitability for home defense, and also real-world scenarios for home defense with less lethal launchers.